So this is a different kind of video for me, but I wanted to make everyone aware since it was my first experience in traffic court in New York City, and it was so strange I just felt I needed to share. So I went to traffic court this morning in Staten Island. I'm not going to share the name of the officer because I do feel like he's pretty new, so I'm not going to put him on blast. He admitted that his training was finished in January 2013. And I got the ticket in February 2013, so he hadn't been on the job that long, at least issuing speeding tickets, when he did go ahead and issue my violation. So I got to the court around 8:15 a.m. for my 8:30 hearing, found my name on the board and which room I was supposed to go to. I went and got a duplicate copy of my ticket because although I did have my own copy, you need to get a duplicate from the window. So I did that. I sat around in the courtroom and waited for them to begin the hearings with the various other defendants. And the first officer, not the gentleman that stopped me, but the officer that was testifying for the other defendants, he was speaking so fast during some of his testimony that I could not even understand what he was saying. There were at least 4 cases before mine, and I'd say 2 of those he was speaking so fast that I couldn't understand what he was saying. And the administrative law judge was not really paying attention, and at least one occasion the administrative law judge took a phone call while there was testimony going on for about 90 seconds. So he wasn't even paying attention at all to what was being said. So it was quite strange because I've been in courtrooms many times over the years and I've never actually seen this occur. Not in traffic court, obviously, because I don't typically get tickets, but it was just strange. So anyway, I got up for my hearing when my case was called, and the officer went on to testify about how he's trained to visually estimate the speed of cars. He completed that training in January 2013. He testified that his estimates were accurate within 5 miles per hour. However, when I asked him if the mechanical device used in his training was calibrated, the officer testified that there was no mechanical device used during his training to verify his visual estimates. I was kind of taken aback by that, so I asked him a couple more questions about it, and he did again just admit that he never had any confirmation that his 5 mile per hour estimate, within 5 mile per hour estimate, was accurate. The administrative law judge seemed to be getting irritated with me and basically asked me to move on. So the police officer testified that he did not have the calibration certificate for the laser unit that was used on the day he stopped me, which again was in February 2013. The officer further testified that he's not the person responsible for calibrating the equipment on a regular basis. That's the job of someone else in their department. He does do field calibrations, but he couldn't say if the laser equipment had been calibrated on the day of my stop by the person who normally has that job. So again, he couldn't say if it was properly functioning on the day of the stop based on only his field calibration. So the officer testified that he didn't recall the conditions of traffic on the day of the stop, whether traffic was heavy or whether it was light, where there was, if there were other cars traveling around me. He testified that he would normally, if traffic was heavy, use the laser unit a second time and make a note of it on the summons. In the case of my stop, there were no such notes, and he couldn't state with certainty that he had used the laser unit on the correct car. He testified from his notes and of course not from memory, and he said he didn't make any notes if traffic was heavy or light that day. So the police officer could also not estimate a time frame when I asked him to testify as to how long he observed my car when he was making his visual estimation of speed. He testified that he observed my car initially around 1,400 feet from his position, and around 1,200 feet is when he decided to pull out his laser unit, and he clocked me around 940 feet, and he said that I was speeding. However, he couldn't testify as to any time frame at all regarding how long it took my car to travel from the 1,400 feet to 1,200 feet to the 942 feet. So of course, rate of speed in feet multiplied by time in seconds equals distance, and that'll give you your feet per second. And if you divide that figure by 1.466, which is feet per mile, you'll get a result of miles per hour. So without a time frame for him to make this visual estimate, there's really no accurate way for this officer to accurately assess my rate of speed. There was no evidence that the laser unit he was using that day was calibrated by the department personnel that has that job responsibility, and he didn't bring any calibration certificate to the hearing at all. He had no evidence to support his claim of being able to estimate speed within 5 miles per hour from his training, and there was no evidence that he learned to make accurate visual assessments since he testified there was no mechanical device used to confirm any of his visual estimates during his January 2013 training. So of course at the end of all of my questioning, I asked that the officer's testimony be considered unreliable. However, despite that there's no corroborating evidence that I was speeding, the administrative law judge found me guilty. I ended up paying a fine of $230, and I also was told that I would receive in the mail instructions on how to pay a $300 driver responsibility assessment to DMV. Apparently that's paid in increments of $100 over the course of 3 years. So of course I'm appealing this decision because it was just so shocking to me that there was no evidence that I was speeding, yet and still I'm being asked to pay $530. So it's just strange to me, and I felt like I needed to warn other people that are even considering driving through New York.